We're going to give it another minute while everybody's starting. My name is John. I work at PhotoCare.
Where?
And yes, you remember where I am. And so for a while, I've wanted to have a conversation with Mark about, what's it like to photograph celebrities. So we thought that this would be a fun way to do it. And so Mark and I are going to talk, and I've got some questions for him and things. We're going to go on for about 35, 40 minutes. And then we're going to have a Q&A. Please use
if anyone's still awake,
please use your Q&A to ask questions. We will be monitoring it. Anthony Festa, who works in our digital department, is here. He'll be monitoring your questions and answers.
And there's a prize for the best question.
Are you giving something away?
Well, Banana Guns got the best question last time, and I owe him a kiss. But I could probably up my game this time.
You can up your. You can. Never mind. And so, if you would all use the Q&A, and if it's something that's pertinent to as we're talking at the moment, Anthony can interrupt us and ask it then, or after a little while, we'll start answering Q&A.
John, your hair looks wild on that blue screen.
Isn't that great? I got that nice, broccoli head going.
Very cool.
Okay. All right, Mark. So, now that your rep has given me permission to do this, I'm just going to get started. So what is it like to photograph celebrities? What is it like? I mean, you walk into a room and, or you're into a room walks Barack Obama or Al Pacino. And
it's really weird. And I've said this before on these, when people have asked me this question, it's really hard for me to go back and remember the beginning of it. So I can only really talk about the experiences I remember. And one of the things that happens to me, and is really, really bizarre, and it's happened, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 or 20 times. If I'm really in awe of this person, I have this kind of weird outer body experience. And all of a sudden, I'll be trying to keep as cool, calm, and collected as possible. My mom, who I know is watching right now, hi, Mummy.
Hi, Mom.
Says that, I've always reminded her of like a duck or a swan in the water, where when you look at the water, you just see this very graceful movement moving across, and it all looks so seamless. But underneath the water, you see these crazy little legs going like this. So that kind of sums me up in a way. I manage to portray, like right now, these things make me very nervous, but I managed to portray like an outer cam, but my inside is going 100 miles an hour. And what I've actually found has happened a few times is that, as I say, I have this like weird outer body experience where I'm looking at the person I'm talking to, and all of a sudden I kind of rise up and I'm looking down at myself from an outer body experience talking to this person. And it doesn't last for very long, and I don't know it's happening, and then it goes away. But the kind of thought is like, oh my God, I'm in the room with a president or somebody who I admire, or, and it's just very, very strange. But it's, so I think to answer your question more specifically, I've come to realize that we're all just people.
Right. So how do you when they come in and you could be nervous or they're trusting you, how do you set that comfort level with them between you and them once they enter that room?
I think people like to be shown respect, whoever they are. I've got better results from kind of humor and self-deprecation than I have from trying to be like cool or hip or. So, one of the things which is always a weird one, which, everybody talks about if you meet somebody who's well known and they introduce themselves and, you shake somebody's hand, you go, hi, I'm Mark, and they go, hi, I'm Al, or hi, I'm Al Pacino, nice to meet you. it's so fucking awkward that I always use their name in my hello, so they don't have to do that thing, especially if you're being polite. So, oh, hi, Mr. Schlesinger. Oh, hi, John. Or Mr. I always use Mr. I'm Mr. Schlesinger. So nice to meet you. I'm Mark. I'm thrilled to be taking your photo today. Or I'm so pleased you're here, and we're going to get a chance to take this photo. And then that takes away this like horrible, who they are. You obviously know who they are, but it's respectful. And I think if you can start off from a place of respect from the very, very beginning, it's gonna go far. I think you must. Or I try and give off an air of confidence that I know what I'm doing, and I'm not going to waste their time. And sometimes things go wrong pretty quickly. Especially with digital cameras and stuff. Did something weird happen there, John?
Yeah, I just changed the screen.
Oh, you did. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So with digital cameras and stuff, if something goes. If something goes wrong, as soon as you show that you're a little panicked by it or a little panicked by them, they're going to lose confidence in you. And I'm talking about, it doesn't matter, celebrity, anybody you're working with, you want to at least pretend to know what you're doing. And I've got away with that for many years.
Pretending is a skill, huh? You've learned that?
No, I mean, it's a lot. And, sometimes if you're just, brutally honest, like, you know what, my camera battery died, I got to get a new battery. But if you start like kind of hassling around and they're looking, what's wrong with this? And the other thing you got to think about is, when something's going wrong, the person always thinks it's them, right? So you take a photo and you make a funny face, but you take a photo and you go, ooh, because maybe your light's wrong or it's out of focus. But when they see your reaction to that picture, they think it's them that's the problem, right? And it never, it's not. It's you. You're the photographer. It's your lighting. It's your stuff. You're the problem. So I try very often not to show like, oh, there's a problem with this, or, so it's always, and this is also something I've said before, it's that, with digital nowadays, everybody, you've got like an audience of 5,000 people around your computer like this, ready to till you get the hair, the makeup, the publicist, everybody's looking around your computer, and you take a photo and it comes in and everybody has an opinion.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that now.
So you take a photo and it comes in, it's 3 stops underexposed, the lighting's god awful, the expression's terrible, the composition's bad, it looks terrible. My reaction will always be, oh my God, that's the best photo I've ever taken. You look fantastic. We can fix a few things with the light and, maybe we can get a little better on focus, but wow, you look great. And I guarantee you, if you can inspire that level of confidence, or if you could make them feel you know what they're doing and make whoever it is feel comfortable, then that's going to lead to genuinely an authentic portrait or what you're trying to get.
When you get an assignment to shoot somebody, do you research them? Do you look at their subject so that you know more about them? Do you just,
Definitely.
I've never heard of them before, I don't care, and move on?
No, God, no. I mean, no, it's, once again, it all just goes back to that respect, there's some people you don't have to look up to know who they are. But what's interesting about looking somebody up is maybe being able to find something in their life that you have something in common with, even if it's as simple as they have kids. Or they went to school in Manhattan, or they did something in Scotland, or they work for this particular charity or that particular charity. And you're not doing it to try and impress them. You're just doing it to find some kind of level place where you can actually have a conversation as two human beings, instead of a celebrity and a photographer, or, you know, with celebrity especially, so much of their life is just spent with people wanting something from them, you know, or, you know, there's everybody wants something. Everyone wants an autograph, you know, everybody, the commercial. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a bad life. You know, it's a great life, but I think people are very, very guarded. So when you can come into the room and level the playing field and go, hey, we're both here. Let's make some nice photos. I'll make it quick. I'll try and make it as pleasant as possible. Oh, by the way, I saw that you did that thing in Africa last year. That was super cool. I think
that works.
And that's where that little bit of research comes in, and it never does any harm. And, you know, it's interesting. I mean, you know, I've been in a situation where I've said to somebody, how's the wife? And they looked at me and go, we split up. So, you know, there's always...
Oops. Bad time to ask that question sometimes. So, anything you won't do to get a shot?
What?
Anything you won't do to get the shot? How far will you go to get somebody to react to you, to get comfortable, to...
I mean, I'll do anything in that way. You know, I'll do a song, I'll do a dance, I'll you know, tap dance, I'll do anything in my power to make somebody laugh. What I've come not to do, or what I try not to do, is to ask them to do something they don't want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, if somebody doesn't want to smile, if that is their thing that day and they don't want to smile, I'm not going to go, hey, smile. You know, I mean, why? So, you know, techniques and tricks to engage people, and maybe to engage or to get the reaction you're looking for. But, you know, I find that the best portraits I get come in the moments between communication with that person. So, you know, I often talk about how I love shoot with my camera here, so I can continue to talk while somebody is, you know, talking back to me. And these little moments are the moments of expectation or whatever. If I'm telling a story and you kind of engage them, for me, they make the best photos. Now, I try and avoid the look left, look right, chin up, chin down, smile business, or, you know, I just try and avoid it. Yeah. But the thing that, as I say, is like, as soon as you're asked, as soon as you become the director to the extent that, you know, you're directing there's that great saying that, you know, a portrait should say more about the photographer than the subject. To me, that's nonsense. I want it to be about the subject. I don't want it to be what I've made the subject do. I want it to be what I've managed to get the subject to relate to me, or to communicate with me. Does that make sense, John?
Sure. I understand. Huh? I'm even listening.
Are you even listening?
Yeah, I am. Hey, so then, like, as styles change and as people's tastes change, you know, what do you do to help to keep current, or are you just, you know, leading that whole thing there and moving forward? Because it's hard to stay kind of current with as fast as things move today.
Definitely, and I think one of the safest ways to stay current is, I'm definitely, you know, down the technology rabbit hole. I love the new cameras. I love the new technology. I love all that stuff. But I think what would make me very, very happy, or what makes me very happy about looking at one of my photographs, and it doesn't happen that often because I'm never that happy at looking at one of my photographs, but if I can look at it and not be able to put a date on it, you know, last year, 10 years, 15 years, then that makes me happy. And that's also why, you know, I'm not a big fan for my work of having a lot of environment, because that gives away too many clues of when it was taken. I suppose the word I'm looking for is timeless, is something that I try and achieve. Fail miserably often, but it's what I would like. And it's interesting you're saying that because I've been working quite a lot over the last, I've been indulging myself quite a lot over the last few weeks of going back. I'm working on a book for being in New York for 25 years. Maybe leaving New York now, but having
You're so close. You're so close.
Going back to some of the shits that I did and choosing different images and processing them differently and indulging this. I mean, it's something which it just scares the pants off me to, you know, as a freelancer and as a photographer, I find I'm always looking forward. What's next? What's next? What's next? I got to feed the family. I got to pay my bills. I got to do this. You know, everything behind is just behind. But with this little bit of time that I've had, I've been forced to kind of be a little retrospective. And I've been retouching some stuff, and all of a sudden, I'm starting like, ooh, this could be a little stylized. And then I kind of do it, and I pierce the sliders, and I go, no, it's stylized. And I put it all back. So
do you find that you go like contrasty and then flat, and then you go this direction, and then you kind of go that direction?
Yeah,
I feel like this, and that your mood and your who you are that week affects how you're processing some of these portraits, that you're applying that much of yourself to those images?
I think so. I think sometimes, you know that expression, you can't turn a pig's ear into silk. Is that the expression?
Something like that. There are a couple.
Can't make silk out of pig's ear or something like that. So sometimes I'm desperate for the photo to be good. There's something about the photo that I love or I like. It's horrible to everyone else, whether it's out of focus, badly exposed, underexposed, but maybe there's something about it because I remember what happened in that minute, and I'm desperate for the photo to be right. And I'll put it up on my screen, and I'll do this, and I'll do that, and I'll do this, and I'll look at it all these different ways, and eventually I just turn around and go, it's not a good picture. It's not a good picture. So I think the ingredients is it needs there needs to be something about it before you can make an okay picture good, but you can't make a bad picture okay, or I can anyway.
I know, and there are times I've had pictures where I've loved them, and it's from whatever was happening at the moment I took them, and they're just god awful pictures, and that's that.
Yeah, exactly. So indulging this and going down and indulging into re-looking at stuff is kind of messed with my head a little bit, because I always usually just leave it behind and let's move forward. What can I do next? I gotta eat.
Why don't we use this moment and we'll look at some pictures, and you can tell us a little bit about them. Tell me to move on, and let me see if I can get this running. Of course not. I've now lost my mouse completely.
Hi, Mom.
There we go.
Oh, there's my logo.
There's your logo. And there's Robin Williams.
So my archive currently has about 500,000 digital images, which I'm looking through. And I think there's maybe 10 that I would say, okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I love that, or I like that a lot. And this is definitely one of them. It's a moment where, I don't know how to describe this. It could be a terrible picture if it was just the millisecond after, or the millisecond before,
or if it was me.
Light was right. But there was just something about how much I love what happened between me and Robin Williams in that moment, and actually the ability to press the button and get it right. So, it's a very, very special picture for me. It was taken about a year before he passed, and just getting to spend a little bit of time with him was, who gets to do that? It's just the best.
Yeah, that's very true. There are times doing what you do that you become a very lucky person, and that you actually have got to spend time with some of these people.
Yeah, and I genuinely feel when all's said and done, you know, I have the picture and the picture is something special and that's wonderful. But what I really, really, truly have is the experience of getting to hang out and spend some time and talk to some of the most interesting people. And that's the blessing for me. I mean, I don't want to get too deep in everything, but
It's okay, but it's a great segue to fabulous people you get to spend time with.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just like it's you know, I'm a Scottish guy. I come from Glasgow, from Scotland, from a not a small town. I mean, Glasgow's not a small town, but you know, and you have like you kind of in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I'd get invited like to Sesame Street and to get a chance to do this kind of thing, and
Right.
and
How much joy.
It just it's just joy, and the experience. You know, I can live off the Sesame Street experience forever. I mean, it's what inspires me to keep going. Is like, who can I meet next? Whose picture can I take? And it's not just the celebrities. It's just the collection of these experiences with people that you just get. You get like a special time when you're taking a photo of them. It's just special. He was not very communicative.
No, I can understand. Was he more communicative, the next person?
He was. He looks really like Barack Obama. He was the Barack Obama stand-in. Barack was in a meeting.
He looks remarkably similar.
So, to anybody, I'm sorry if I'm repeating the story, but it's one of my absolute favorites. You know, I'm invited as an immigrant to this country to go to the White House to photograph the president, and you know, it's a real honor and extremely exciting. You go into the White House and you go through. It's like if you can imagine white glove airport security. You know, where they're, you know, and what was very nice about that time is, you know, you're being invited to visit the president, and everybody there who treats you with a lot of respect is you're a guest of the president. So everyone was so nice and so wonderful, and we get into this room, and it's the diplomatic room, and it's if you think of the White House, you know, with the one side is the columns and the other side is a rounded bit. There's a corridor that runs in the middle, and this is the inside. It's a round room. It's called diplomatic room. It's where, you know, people meet or whatever. And I don't know if you can see, there's a yellow couch in the back on the right there. So we get there, and my art director, creative director of Esquire, David Cucurito, we're all kind of very excited to be there. But it's summer, it's August, it's super hot. Got to say, the air conditioning in the White House is not that great. And my David Cucurito takes his jacket off, and he throws his jacket over the back of that sofa. And the Secret Service just go, excuse me, sir, but the last person to sit on that was probably Lincoln. Would you mind moving your jacket? Look, we have a special guest star. This is my special guest star. Come to visit.
Who is that?
That's John.
Hi.
Who's that?
The picture.
Who is that picture, Tenny?
The good president.
He's a very good president.
Wait, that's a really good picture. I'm just asking for this.
Oh, you just want that? Okay, go take it away and close the door on your way out, sir. Thank you. That's my son.
I realize that. He's very cute. It must look like his mother.
Thanks, John. Tenny, can you close the door, sweetheart? Sorry. So here's another experience. You know, I'm a fairly reasonably large Star Wars fan, and what was really interesting about this is a few months before GQ magazine had put out a cover and I think it was Amy Schumer, and she was kind of in bed with C3PO, and there was kind of some sexual connotation in the picture, and Disney went berserk. Disney were like, how, so there was this kind of new law from Disney, or new rule from Disney, is no actors with props at all on any set apart from our sets. So we had this whole concept of this particular photograph or something like it, where John Boyega was holding his helmet and looking into his eyes. And we were just told point blank he wasn't allowed. We could shoot the helmet, we could shoot him, but they were not allowed to appear in the same picture together. So we get on set, and basically a guy comes from Disney with like a motorcycle box, like a helmet box, and it's kind of padlocked, and the helmet comes out, and it's the prop, and it's actually his helmet from the show, and we do all sort of kind of still lifes of it, and it's great, and we've got the helmet. And my creative director at this time is kind of saying to me, you got to get him with the helmet. I was like, what do you want me to do? 4 guys from Disney here? I thought, like, they're not going to happen. So I thought, let's try something. So I took the helmet and I put it on a C-stand just out of shot. And John comes on set, and he's really lovely, and he's doing all the poses, and it's great, great, great. And I turn around to him and I say, man, I wish I had something to play with, a prop or something like that. Something to do with your hands.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Go, oh, your helmet's there. And he goes, oh, man, get the helmet. So, he grabs the helmet and he does this, and in 2 or 3 frames he does this, and then you can hear like the shouts from the back of the studio going, put the helmet down. And they all run over, and they look at the monitor, and they actually see that it's a pretty cool shot. It's not abusive or anything. I mean, we weren't trying to make fun of anything. So they made us put it down, but we got the shot, and we ran it for the cover of CNET, which was, the idea. So this kind of, this kind of special for that. It was a little bit of forbidden fruit in that picture.
Brilliant way of getting it done. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And then we've got Alice Cooper, who's just beautiful.
He is one of the nicest human beings I've ever met.
And a good golfer.
A very good golfer. So we're photographing him for, I think it's one of the British Sunday magazines, and sorry, I'm reading somebody's comment. I'm drinking coffee. So it's one of these situations. Yeah, Alice is performing it. He goes on stage 8. If you get here like 6, we'll find you somewhere to set up. It's just like, it's going to be one of these situations where you get there and you get to some theater, I think in Connecticut, and you get there and you say, hi, I'm Mark, I'm with the Sunday Mail or Sunday, I can't even remember who it was, here to photograph Mr. Cooper. And it's like, do you have a contact name? You give them the contact name. Nobody's heard of the contact name. And you just know it's going to be like a process to kind of get where you need to be. But anyway, let us in, get set up just outside his dressing room. We got set up about an hour and a half before the show. And they kept saying, like, he'll give you 10 minutes. Don't worry, take your time. But, I wanted to be ready. So we're just sitting outside, and he comes to the dressing room. He comes into the dressing room, and he walks past us, and it's just him with no makeup. It's Alice Cooper. He just looks so kind of weirdly normal, in like a sweatpants and the sweat jacket. And he goes, "Hey, you guys here to take for the photo?" I said, "Yeah." And talking to him, and I know Alice is Mr. Cooper is a big golf fan. So hey, I play a lot of golf. I know you're a great fan. What courses do you like? We talked about some courses, and then all of a sudden he goes, I gotta go. I gotta get ready. I'll come out in my makeup for you. And it was just this lovely conversation with this really nice human being talking about golf. And then about 20 minutes later, he comes out, and he's Alice Cooper, as you know it. And he puts on that face. It's like, whoa! It was just like this crazy, crazy transformation. And it was cool. And then, it's weird. I just wish I'd taken him up on this. And he said, "Listen, next time I'm in New York, we should play golf." And it's one of these things that you think, is he just saying that, or does he mean it? Should I take him up on it? But I never did.
Out of curiosity, and we're going to keep going here. We've got more, but so one of the things that just talking about Alice Cooper here that I thought of is how much of these portraits are really the people. In this case, Alice Cooper came out as Alice Cooper and he gave us this. And how much of it is you? Is Mark getting a person to be that person that we either think we know or do know? Or
look, I think a different photographer, a better photographer, a different photographer may have wanted to show Alice Cooper not as Alice Cooper. For me, I wanted Alice Cooper to be Alice Cooper, so I didn't fight Alice Cooper doing Alice Cooper.
Right, but in other pictures also, like we're going to go to the next one. It's Anthony Bourdain, and how much of that is Anthony Bourdain, and how much of that is Mark Mann?
Well, I think this is
tough question.
No, I think I can answer it. I think I can. The light, the camera choice, the focal length is obviously all me. The angle is me or my team, let's say. I can't take all the credit. There's some people that help. What makes this photo special to me is I know that I've communicated something with him and he's given me that look because of something I've done. And he's almost smiling. Now, if I'd been, this is shot with a 4x5 Graflex, so it was a one-off, so I was waiting for my moment. If I'd been shooting digital on this particular situation, I may have got 3 or 4 frames afterwards where his kind of lip goes up and he actually smiled at something absolutely ridiculous that I probably said. And I didn't, and I hit the trigger what I thought was too early. But I can see the eyebrow gone up in the curiosity. So in all honesty, I would like in my heart of heart to believe that I made this. But I think in reality, it's him. I'm trying to get him, and I want it to be him. Sometimes you have to maybe guide people, but I want it to be them. I want it to be authentic them. Maybe not them. Maybe not them that you see all the time. I think maybe trying to. I hate to say
the inside them. The
I don't know.
Personal them.
It sounds so corny. I think off guard maybe, or unguarded, or something maybe.
A moment of real.
Real, authentic. Authentic is a word I like.
I'm gonna. I don't know if there are pictures here that you really want to show or not, but I'm actually gonna not go through every single one because we're gonna end up going way over and things. So we're gonna keep plugging along a little bit.
Who chose these nonsense pictures?
Your rep.
So I talk about like really authentic moments or just these two on set are absolutely hysterical. They're just like the show. They're nippy at each other and they're just absolutely brilliant. It's like a complete comedic act. And I really just wanted to get this picture of the two of them. I was in a very tight space. It was at, I think maybe one of the film festivals. And I was in a really tight space and I didn't have enough space to have kind of any, I thought, let's try and do a back-to-back thing. And I kind of wanted them both kind of looking out that way. And, so I'm trying to get this. But every time Lily Tomlin looked that way, Jane Fonda would turn in and smile at the camera, right? Because she knew that she was getting the focus. And I kept kind of giggling. And Lily Tomlin says, what are you laughing at? I said, well, every time you look that way, she smiles at the camera. She's not playing. And so Lily Tomlin kind of just turned around to her right there and said something pretty outrageous. And Jane or Miss Fonda just went, see her? And I just happened to hit the button at the right moment. And it's a one-off. There's nothing else that looks like it in the series. And that's kind of often what happens is that if I'm doing it right, then, there's only one picture that looks like that picture,
Mm-hmm.
I love this picture. Is this mine?
Yeah, yes. You gave it to me.
Wow, did I take that? No, I'm kidding. Once again, Al Pacino, my whole life has been one of my absolutes. And I got really close to photographing him because I photographed the real Serpico once, the guy that actually was Serpico, or the guy that is Serpico. And I got to photograph him, and I was kind of like, it's great to photograph Serpico, but I wonder if I could get to photograph Al Pacino, who played him in a movie one day. And I did not get very long with Al Pacino. And he was tired. It was a long day. And, what direction do you give to Al Pacino? I mean, really, what do you say?
Be yourself, stare me down, and away we go.
I just can't tell somebody to stare you down. So I think once again, I think I was telling a story or something like that, or just talking my usual nonsense. And I think his head was down. He just looked up into the camera as like a kind of like as an acknowledgement of something I was saying. And I hit the button and this came out. And it's very, very, very badly exposed in real life. That's a little secret. I had to do a lot of surgery on that to kind of get the contrast how I wanted it. And I'll go a stage further. If I didn't want that contrast, I would have had a problem because that's the only way that it actually looks right. Because my exposure was awful.
Well, it looks pretty good.
I wish I could change that shirt. The shirt bothers me. The shirt folded in.
Do you want to talk about Mitch, or you want to move past that?
I want to talk about him. Let's show him. Let's just stay silent for a few seconds and move on.
A moment of silence.
Yeah, we can go by now.
Here, we can do this.
There we go.
And then we can go back.
Now let's talk about Mitch. It's funny. There's a really weird story that goes with this Mitch McConnell photo. Let's leave. So I went to the Houses of Congress, and on that day I got to photograph Harry Reid, who at the time was the Speaker of the House, and his counterpart, Mitch McConnell. So we're doing both in one day. I think Mr. Reid was at 10 o'clock, and I think Mr. McConnell was at 1 o'clock. And we get to Congress, and we're met by Harry Reid's people, and they take us into this beautiful wood-paneled room. And it's just like, it's so historic and it just feels so special. And, we're in the American Congress and it's fabulous. And Mr. Reid comes in and I have a connection with Harry Reid because long story, but I know somebody who knows him quite well. He used to work for him. Lovely conversation, took some great photos, felt really, really good. It was a kind of a sunny day outside. And then they walk us past the floor of the Congress and they hand us over to Mitch McConnell's people. And as soon as we get past to the other side of Congress, the sky kind of goes dark. And for me, it was like going, in Harry Potter, going to the Slytherin house. I don't want to get political. It's just how it felt. So all of a sudden we're in Slytherin, and we get set up in this like 6 foot by 6 foot room with, pictures of people that, like like big photo of Paul Wolfowitz, you know. It was really off-putting. And, you know, it was just such an opposite experience to, I don't think Mitch McConnell, Harry Reid was happy to be there and was kind of nice. Mitch McConnell does not want to have his photograph taken. He does not want to have a ring light 6 or 8 inches from his face, and he doesn't want to have a camera 6 or 8 inches from his face. So he was particularly uncomfortable. And his aide kept saying, can you come up higher, because he doesn't like his neck. And, you know, I'm not never going to be disrespectful, but it was like, I certainly can, but it's a set of photos where they're all taken at the same angle. So this is a photo I just, it doesn't bring back as pleasant memories as some of my others.
Okay, I think I've got time for one more picture to talk about. Do you want to do Jack Black, Michael Keaton, Leonard Nimoy?
Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton's a nice one. So yeah, this is you know, going back to try and do this book thing that I'm working on, going back and looking at older shoots and trying to find new images or images that I didn't see anything, because I'm trying to work out what I want to do with the book, what images I want to put in. And, you know, I've got some other shots of Michael Keaton's, the one that they used in the magazine, and they were all very nice. And I get to this one, I thought, I can't believe I didn't choose this image. And I think, you know, it might be something to do with how your taste changes. You know, it's not that old, it's like 6 years old or whatever, 5 years old. But all of a sudden, the way I'm looking at imagery is constantly, I think, evolving. I don't know for the better or for the worse. But this is the one that really appeals to me now. But at the time, I just passed it. So
was it ever supposed to be black and white, or were you originally looking at it in black and white? I just have a feeling from some of the other pictures that
it's actually it works well in black and white. It works just as well in black and white as it does. Something about his eyes I really like in color.
Okay, so I have one more question for you, and then we're going to open it up to the audience and stuff.
Okay.
And then we have some other things. So I know that over time, and we talked about with Anthony Bourdain, that you've used a number of cameras over your career. Kind of thing. Yeah. Does a shoot dictate the type of camera you use? So if I have to photograph somebody, or I'm looking for this, do you pick and choose cameras and styles based on what you're photographing? Or is it just like the best camera is the camera you have in your hand?
I have a really good answer to this question, but I've had so much coffee. I'm just going to the restroom. Can you do your announcements? I'll be back in 1 minute.
Well, it's questions and answers for you.
Okay. Don't look at my shorts on the way to the restroom. I'll be back in 1 minute.
Okay, so Mark has decided he needs to take a quick break. So what I'm going to do is thank you all for coming. We're going to keep going as soon as he comes back. I would like to just say that, like, on Tuesday, June 2nd, we're going to have another webinar, a Sony mirrorless video workflow webinar. We hope you come. We hope you learn stuff. And on Thursday, June 4th at 5 o'clock, I'll be doing another talk like this with Victoria Will. We'll be talking about her transition from being a photojournalist to an advertising photographer. I think that'll be really interesting. I think they'll have some really good data, not data, but information and insights into how to make a transition like that. And so Mark's back. So
I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to answer it in a way that's going to embarrass you a little bit. So I am, in the spirit of full disclosure, John works at PhotoCare, and I've been a customer of John's for what, a decade, John?
Yeah, something like that.
So, and you know, just taking it back a step, what really helps, there's so much stuff out there, there's so many cameras, there's so many systems, there's lenses, you know, the camera's part of it, but what can really, really, really help is when you have somebody that can help you filter out the noise of, you know, the marketing noise from new stuff, And how I genuinely know, I mean, I'm in a very lucky position. As I say, we've had a relationship. John, I need a new, what one? And having the trust in John and in photo care, I know this is a shameless plug because you asked me not to do it, but it is true. Having that trust in your vendors or the people that you buy stuff from, just knowing that you're not going to get it wrong, because somebody with more experience in these things than you is guiding you is really, really key. So in saying that, when it comes to which camera for which shoot, I'm a Leica guy. I love my Leicas, and John and I have argued about Leicas many times.
I like them too. I'm thinking of getting what you have.
But, John will say that it's not the right camera for the job. And what's interesting about that is that, it's like, I'm so fond of my particular camera that I will try and squeeze it into any situation, even though it's not the right camera for the job. I wish I was in a position to have like, oh, this would be great for this, or this would be great for that. But I kind of try and force everything. I think I own 2 lenses, John, maybe 3 lenses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a lens guy. I don't have, because as soon as you start getting into the stuff, then I think that creates a noise that distracts from the creativity. I do have one story. I wish I had the photograph up. I photographed Francis Ford Coppola recently, and everybody told me it was going to be hard, and he doesn't like photographers, and he doesn't like having his photograph taken, and watch what you do with the light, because he will talk about your light, and everybody told me it's going to be difficult. And I've been in these situations before with people that know what they're talking about when I don't know what I'm talking about, and it's very embarrassing, especially as a photographer. But, Francis Ford Coppola knows about film and knows about photography, and I'm not going to try and, it's going to be awkward. But I had this great idea. Well, I actually didn't have this idea. My wife had this idea. She said, why don't you take your old Graflex, take a few frames with that, because then you'll think you might know what you're doing. So he comes into the room and he's like, okay, what do you want? What do you want? I said, Mr. Coppola, such a pleasure to meet you. I'm Mark. Godfather wasn't bad. Not a bad movie. Did pretty well there. No, but I said, so, if you have a seat here. And he sat down, and I turned around, and Alex, my assistant, handed me the 4x5 Graflex. And I said to him, do you mind if I take a couple of frames on this, Mr. Coppola? And his eyes, he lit up. He was like, oh, it's a Graflex. Oh, and all of a sudden, I knew that I was cool. And he talked about lenses, and he was like, what are you shooting on? And what film you were shooting on? And what, And all of a sudden, we had it. We did a few frames, which were so dreadfully exposed that I can't even use them. But when I picked up the Leica after that, and he goes, oh, you're a Leica guy. What lens is that? So in that particular situation, I think, using the camera as a prop or a tool was really beneficial to the shoot.
Okay, so we've got about 8 or 9 or 10 questions here. So we're going to try to get them all answered, and Anthony's going to read them off to you. And let's try to get the answers short, so we can try to get as many in as we can.
Do I talk too much? Am I talking too much?
Not at all.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Mark, for attending. So we got a bunch of questions here. Following up on the camera question, I'm actually going to ask one from Kevin Russo. He actually asked, how much do you think the camera really matters?
Okay, so when you talk about like, all right, keep it short, Mark. The camera in your hand is 90%. Whatever camera you have is 90%. You want 94, 95, maybe that's the 4 or 5% difference. But, and there's a caveat, not only is it the camera, but it's how you feel holding the camera. Do you like the camera? Does it feel nice? Do you know the camera? Any camera is most of it, the special, the X factor, the thing that makes it better than just okay, if you're lucky, is the camera.
All right. Thank you. Next question is going to be from Lori Ordover. She is asking, do you design the shoot or does the talents manager control the look of the shoot?
Good question. I think everything is bespoke. I wouldn't say often the talent manager. I would say more often a creative director or the client, whoever's paying for the shoot, is ultimately in control of it. Client manager, or publicist is really more there to make sure that their client doesn't do anything that isn't on brand for them.
Doesn't do something I would do.
Doesn't listen to the nonsense I'm talking and stand on their head or whatever. But yeah, it's very bespoke. I would like to think that people employ me. I would like to think people employ me, first of all, but I would like to think people employ me because they like what I do and they'd like me to do that for them. But ultimately, if somebody's paying you to take photographs, you do what they ask you, because otherwise you won't get an up job.
Yeah. Great answer. Thank you. Lori also asked, do you use strobe or continuous lighting or both?
Much happier in a continuous lighting situation, but use strobe because within it sometimes continuous light's just not the right light. Sometimes strobes. But if I had my absolute choice right now, for the last few years, most of what I've been doing is continuous light. And there's a whole big conversation. I'd love to talk to you about it because I've got all these theories and I want to ask people who actually know what they're talking about if anything I'm thinking makes any sense.
We can talk about it at some point.
So John Kreidler actually asks a much more obscure question that I'm not sure you'll be able to do in a short period of time, but he says, tell us about complicated things.
Well, hello, Mr. Kreidler. So super quick and super brief. For some reason, I'm starting a YouTube channel. It's called Complicated Things, and it's basically a guide of not so much from gearheads or people that worry about f-stops and that, but it's actually how to get it done. So you got to shoot. How do you do it? Not about this is 1.4 and this is 1.8 because it doesn't matter. But like, how do you physically get there? How do you get your equipment there? So Complicated Things is coming soon, and it's a YouTube channel with me and my partner Alex and my other partner Jacob, and it's really good. And we're just about to kind of get launched, and this happened, but it's coming soon. It's going to be fun.
Excellent. All right. Jacob L. asks, for someone who loves to make a personal connection with his subjects, how do you see yourself working in the new COVID era?
I don't, hence I'm here.
And we appreciate you being here.
No, listen, I'm so super impressed with all the incredibly creative ways that I've seen my peers do COVID diaries and make these beautiful images and really work through this in a way that has kept them sane. And I am so envious of these people because I have no ability to do that. The only thing I can do, is be close in somebody with my camera and talk to them and provoke a reaction and take a portrait. And if that's not there for me anymore, I can't accept that, and I'm really super hopeful that a vaccine will come, and I'll be able to get back to what I'm doing. I'm too scared to think of what I haven't got anything else. I've been teaching kindergarten for 4 months. I ain't going there.
Have you been enjoying the kindergarten you've been teaching recently?
No, no, and no.
Okay.
I have a major respect for kindergarten teachers, though.
Yes.
Newfangled respect.
So I've got one from Lauren Hill, who asks, how did you know that you were a photographer? Recently, I was told, you know you are when you realize you can do nothing else. And I've been thinking about that statement ever since. And then she writes, hi, Mark, sincerely, Nancy Pelosi, with a winky face. That I'm not 100% certain of. Guess that's an inside joke.
Well, I'm going to tell you where that joke comes from. Sometimes recently, if I've been trying to provoke a reaction from somebody, I'll, say, hey, so that's it. Look at the guy. That's great. That's beautiful, beautiful. Now, just I want you to just think of something for me. And I just want you to think of Nancy Pelosi in full leather with a big whip and a smile on her face. So it's kind of one of my go-to, I don't know what, but it's kind of my go-to line to just provoke some kind of reaction of disgust or amusement or something. I sometimes, people will say, like, just picture yourself tranquil at the beach. I'll say, just picture Donald Trump in tidy whities. Just trying to get the thing.
Yeah, something different.
So I think on that note, we're probably going to move to the next question. So Keller Custom asks, what's your scotch of choice?
What's my what?
What is your scotch of choice?
Oh, man. I had to give it up. I had a kid. I can't drink anymore. But my scotch of choice used to very much be the one in my hand. It's funny. Most Scottish people are Scotch drinkers, but I don't know many Scottish people that actually care what it is. I'll taste the same after the third one. Now, wine.
Wine's a completely different story.
Yeah.
We got quite a few more questions, and some are still rolling in, so let's keep moving.
Okay.
How does Rhodolite compare to studio strobes, from Scott Odgers?
Say that again?
How does Rhodolite compare to studio strobes? That's from Scott Odgers.
The big difference between strobe and available continuous light is output. So strobe has the ability to be a much stronger light. So the biggest difference is the amount of light. And just to super quick, the reason I started, I came up shooting hip hop. Hip hop was the first kind of work I ever had, and so much of the time, the artists at that time, there was a lot of moving and dancing, and me trying to focus with a non-autofocus camera, like an RZ was my camera choice. So like I kind of discovered that if you put the thing at f32 and you had as much light as strobe light as humanly possible, there was a fair chance you might get a couple of shots in focus.
Yeah.
If you look back at some of my hip hop stuff, just a couple. But then when I didn't need to do that anymore, and I started kind of doing more portraits, I sort of turned the aperture all the way the other way, and started to need less light and enjoy very much not pop, 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 pop. I rented a ring flash once from you guys a long time ago, and it was like one of these ring flashes that you put on the camera, and there was something a little funny about it. And every time I popped the button, I got a tiny little electric shock. It kind of just went.
You enjoyed that?
No, I tell you, like the first 20 times, it was kind of like, oh. But you see, after a day's shooting of like having maybe 400 tiny little electric shocks, I was like, this. But for me, continuous light, where it's all a bit of a surprise when I take the photo, and it's not timed, dong, dong, dong. That's what I prefer.
Gotcha. So we've got one from Marion Goldman asking, how much retouching and manipulation do you do to the image? How do you think about using a 4x5 for a shoot?
How much? Well, my rule of retouching is if it was on your face yesterday, it doesn't have. Like if it's a scar or a pimple or or sorry, if it's a pimple or like a rash or a bad skin day or bad makeup, then I'll fix it. But if you've earned it, then it's going to stay there. Most of the manipulation comes from dodging and burning. And I would like to think that it comes from a training in the darkroom, because I came up in the darkroom and we dodged and we burned all the time in the darkroom, and most of it comes from that. So lots of dodging and burning, definitely fixing of things that weren't on your face yesterday and might not be there tomorrow, but like to leave the stuff that you've earned.
Gotcha.
What was the other thing about 4x5?
He says, well, they ask, how do you think about using a 4x5 for a shoot?
I love 4x5 for every reason that you love 4x5. It slows you down. You have to work slow. You have to know, you have to be thoughtful. You have to be careful. It's just not practical for a lot of the stuff that I do. But my Graflex is my joy camera when I just want to do that.
Gotcha. This one you've mostly answered, but I'm going to ask it. We can do it quick. Vanessa asks, love your Pacino portrait. What kind of light do you use? What is your favorite for that style of portrait?
That was one Rotolite up here. And that's, if I could, I love one light. I love one light in a fill card, one light in a bounce. I'm all about the one light at the moment. That may change next week, but right now it's just about one light.
Right. So we've got a couple more. Lori asks, I noticed that the eyes in your images are super sharp and clear. Is that what you aim for?
Yes. And thank you for noticing, because half my photos are out of focus because I'm moving and talking and, there's for me, there's like, it's very funny. Like, sometimes on set, if I'm in a position where I go Digitech and they'll bring up a picture, I go, it's not sharp, and I go, it's sharp enough, we're keeping it. So, the sharp, and it's nice when you get the image of the eyes pin sharp, but I don't have that luxury very much.
Right. Adam asks, what film do you shoot on your Graflex?
I have a stock left of some 4x5 Fuji FP100.
Yep.
And I have some 3000B. I've started to shoot some real film on it. The stuff I did with Francis Ford Coppola, I shot some real film on dark slides, and I overexposed it by 7 strokes and destroyed it. So.
Yeah. So you were close. You were close.
I mean, it's not that much. Matt asks, how important is the scarf?
Pretty important. It's like it's my like my security blanket. It's important.
Nice. So we've got Kevin Russo says thanks to Mark and PhotoCare. That wraps up the rest of the questions. But I believe John Schlesinger actually has some ones that he hasn't asked.
So we're going to finish this up by doing 10 questions. These are questions that you're to answer with 1 or 2 words. If you can do that. You ready? It's a speed round. It's a speed round.
Yes,
How
sir.
old were you when you started shooting?
13.
Do you have a special photo teacher or photographer who taught you?
No.
Really? You've learned this all yourself? That's
impressive. No, I've had lots of teachers, but none of them stand out as the one.
Okay.
No.
What's your favorite camera?
I had a couple of teachers I would not like to be alone in the darkroom with. I'll put it that way. My favorite camera is my Leica S007.
What is your favorite focal length?
My favorite focal length is changing. It was 120, but I think I like 100 better.
Getting a little wider. Do you prefer film or digital?
Fifth Amendment. Can I take the fifth?
Do you color or black and white?
Black and white.
What was the coolest location you've ever shot at?
Bora Bora.
Who is your favorite photographer?
Eugene Auger.
Who's your biggest influence?
My mom.
And what would you do? What if you could do anything else in your life? What would it be? What would you do?
I'd work at Photocare, man. I'd work at Photocare.
Thank you, Mark.
But seriously, just the last thing for me, and I don't know if anybody, there's in this world of equipment and stuff, and in this world of instant gratification and always looking for the best. Next time you're going to buy a piece of equipment, go into Photocare, talk to them, see the difference in having people that are not there just to sell, and actually care and will listen to you and will advise you well. And that's why I've been a very loyal client of theirs for a long time. If John Schlesinger's there, try and find someone else.
Yes,
but
please.
anybody. But,
thanks. Yeah, find Anthony. He's much
find
more
Anthony.
pleasant than I am.
I sit right next to him. It's not that hard to find me.
So everybody, thank you so much. Please remember Sony Mirrorless Workflow on Tuesday, June 2nd, and Thursday, June 4th. We'll be having another conversation like this with Victoria Will, which I think will be almost as interesting as Mark. I'm not sure. Maybe more interesting.
I think more interesting.
And so thank you all so very much.
She knows what she's doing.
She does.
Oh, you should listen to Victoria. She is an exceptional photographer and a brilliant artist, and her tintypes are off the chart. She's wonderful. Hi, Victoria.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you all.
Anthony.
Have
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Evening. Bye.